Legislative Committee on Monday, June 24th, 10 a.m. Chairman Hyde, would you mind saying the prayer?
Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, and we pray as we go through this meeting today that you will give us the guidance and wisdom that we need to make good decisions for this county. We pray in that name. Amen.
Amen. I do have a motion for approval of the agenda. Someone, motion by Commissioner Show, second by Commissioner Teacher. All fair say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, recognition of the public. We have Ms. Kay Brooks. State your name and address the record.
Good morning. My name is Kay Brooks. I live in Trailhill in Hampshire, Tennessee. I was appalled by the removal of Bob Brown so soon, so close to when all of those were about to be changed over anyway. So I have a few comments about that. I do agree committees should be able to replace their officers and members if they see fit. I don't think that's something the entire commission should step into without there being some major egregious event. However, the way the Education Committee booted out Bob Brown was shameful and should never have happened. No one should be removed because you disagree with his opinions, and especially, and those disagreements should be brought out and fully discussed as adults in the committee. I didn't see that. If it happened, I didn't. There should be no removal action should be initiated because of social media posts hurt someone's feelings. That's just childish. You guys are adults. You're in politics. You're going to get hit hard with all sorts of innuendo and accusations, most of which are probably not going to be true. The rest can be explained if anybody's willing to listen. Removal should always be properly noticed so the public has a chance to provide their input. It should contain specific charges. It should allow thorough rebuttal by the charged person. It should be discussed thoroughly, and it should be a recorded vote so voters know exactly who to hold accountable for what's going on. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brooks. That concludes recognition of the public. Old business, there is none. New business, there is. I'll entertain a motion for discussion. Motion by Commissioner Teacher, second by Commissioner Klein. All fair say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'm going to get into first, if you guys don't mind. This was a request of Chairman Hyde that I read last Monday in his absence, asking the legislative committee to immediately work on revising rules pertaining to the issue of what happened to the education board. So that clear path of managing the issue would be available to the body in the future. Chairman Hyde asked me if I would call this meeting for today, one to try to for his schedule. I know his wife broke up when he's a caretaker. This is the best most convenient for him, so thank you guys for being flexible on doing it today. And also because I know this is a matter of we might have debate for quite a while to make sure legislate on the 8th, giving him 3 or 4 hours. So I appreciate you guys doing that at Chairman Hyde's request. I will add, I did not provide my comments last week. I guess a caution from the chair on reserving, make sure I didn't get into debate. But I had several problems with, I guess theoretically, that I could have said about how the committee process works or removal of somebody and addition of somebody. Obviously, I appreciate the law director sending out a letter at Chairman Hyde's request talking about what Robert's rule says about the removal of the election, I guess, or unelection of a chairman that has to be properly noticed, one which the education committee did not do that. So that was a violation of Robert's rules. So we agree with that. And I don't think anybody necessarily disagrees that the committee can choose or remove the chairman, but as Commissioner Hyde said previously, in 31 years of being in the commission, he's never seen that happen. Definitely unorthodox, unexpected to happen in such a manner and timing, especially 2 months before the committee process happens. It makes things suspect. But my problem was with again, well, I appreciate Chairman Hyde asking us to do this, to at least establish a measure or manner to do this. As Robert's rule sort of says that, and our rules don't, like the proper procedure for a committee to do that, because two things, and I will share about these now. I don't agree, one, with some things that were made by the board and the commissioner from the 18th district on social media posts from a family member as being cause. I think that's extremely dangerous censorship of language. People say a lot about me and say crazy stuff about me all the time. We have a lawsuit from an individual that's lies and says crazy stuff about us all the time. And so, has the right to do that, I guess. And so, lines to a certain degree is protected under the First Amendment. But with what happened here, some of you may not be aware, in 2018, the previous commission, Commissioner DeWitt brought forward a civility code resolution. And at the end of the day, it got voted down, I think, pretty sort of narrowly, but it did get voted down. The intent was to, under civility, basically curb free speech of commissioners outside the commission chambers. And in their personal time, which would be about gross violation of the First Amendment rights to say what they want to say. At the time, I basically made an argument on the floor that, somebody can subjectively decide they don't like a person's tone of voice or even their opinion, and they'd be considered in violation of that civility resolution. It was just an egregious overreach. And in my opinion, I think saying that because somebody's family member made a disparaging remark about somebody is not cause necessarily, but at the end of the day, if a majority or supermajority committee decides to remove somebody, they can determine what that cause is. And I guess I respect that right, the committee to do that. For example, a chairman just might not be putting out agendas or showing up to meetings on time, or might be disorganized, and the committee members might think, well, we just think that they're not doing a good job as chairman, we need to have a chairman. I mean, that would be determined as cause. I mean, so I see both sides of the argument arguing things on a right of somebody to remove somebody or put them in. I just think the reasons given were not correct, in my opinion. One, because it's dangerous, like I can basically get out of my feelings hurt because somebody says something about me, I want to remove. Or two, the thing that I'm hearing about the safety issues being brought up, or exposure to safety issues at school, by Commissioner Brown, but Commissioner Becker did the same thing from the floor of the commission, saying penny buttons weren't working. Nobody knew about that. Being texted from somebody from the school board while they're at our meeting. And so, if you're going to say one person is in violation of exposing supposedly safety gaps at a school, and another person did the exact same thing in a public meeting, how is that not the exact same violation of double standards and hypocrisy? To put that person as chairman, if you're using that as a reason to kick another person off as chairman. I don't agree with that. That's not logical and sound. There's no logic in that. If you have a personality conflict with somebody, if you want to remove the chairman from the chairman, hey, that's can't argue with that. So I have to respect that decision. But I didn't want to state that. I didn't feel it was necessarily appropriate for me to say that necessarily as chairman. Kind of be as neutral as I can, in a debate. But I will say that here, and as a matter of my personal opinion, and why the background of why I think it's dangerous because of the civility resolution and trying to curb free speech of somebody outside. As far as the public comments that were made, it's my understanding that the family member that made a disparaging remark did remove it and did apologize to the commissioner. So, what else can you do other than just take it out? I guess we need different means. But I get it. I mean, it's not fun, and I don't in any way diminish the damage or hurt that might be caused to the commissioner for what might be said or anything. So definitely justify his right to feel that way or have his opinion. So I don't dispute that at all. I fully respect him on that. But just wanted to lay that groundwork of why we're here, the dangers of what we've done. I did go ahead and type up, have right here just my suggestion based on reading the law directors. It's this piece of paper right here should be in the packet that you got from it. You don't have it, so give it to you. I don't know if I have yours. Okay.
The very last page.
So basically, and it's on the standing rules of committee, page 5 of our current standing rules. My suggestion is making these a new number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 basically is saying, it's confirming what Robert's rule said. It's saying that the election of chairman and vice chair, shall occur subject to being placed on an agenda with adequate ballot notice, which is what Robert's rule talks about. So we're just solidifying that in the rules and having to state it plainly. Point 2, one thing that was in question in the law director's letter, or I can't remember if Chairman Hyde's office, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, was just the length of term. It's always been understood that the length of term of the chairman's committee's position was for a year. So basically, we're basically confirming that, because we always say all appointments to boards and committees are a year, and that is our rules. And so we're just saying the chairman and vice chair are for a year, which is basically the committee rules. Just restating that, confirming it. And point 3 is the one, and I worked with the law director on this, and he can speak to this a little bit more. And I got this language, I think, a little bit from the resolution that we debated in legislative last month on removing members from, I guess, any type of citizen board. No less than 90 days, basically, no less than 2/3 majority vote of that committee, and then it has to be properly noticed, and cause to be determined by that committee, basically. So a little bit higher threshold on a removal of a chairman or vice chair. But I'm just going by what Chairman Hyde had put in his resolution for the appointments of members to citizen boards. So that's these are my thoughts based on simplest way, and the law director confirmed. I think item 3 confirms both the obviously 1 has to be brought to the agenda, and then the committee would have to determine cause with a 2/3 vote, and then after cause is determined with a 2/3 vote, you basically decide whether to remove that person from that. So, Commissioner Shuck, your question.
Yeah, so I was right. This is pretty close to what I was kind of writing down. So yours is. So I think the time on you have to reference it in here. The only thing I think I would change this, and I'm going to probably make an amendment for it, is so just take a step back here. Well, we really got put in a bad spot because there was a gap between Robert's rules and our standing rules. So Robert's rules, as I understand it, references back to state that basically it provides the ability for a committee and some groundwork for a committee to change its chair or vice chair, change its officers, but kind of states in the rules, or states in Robert's rules that the standing rules should say would do that in such case where a period of term has been determined, something to that effect. The law director's statement said it. So we didn't have that in our standing rules, which was the problem. And I think this is trying to correct that.
It is.
And so the only issue I've got here is when is making it very clear when that period starts. And so I think you can do that with a pretty simple change, and please argue with me if I'm wrong. The election of the chairman and vice chair shall occur immediately upon formation of the committee, subject to being placed on the agenda, blah, 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 blah. So basically, as soon as the committee is formed, the chair and vice chair are appointed. Then I would add, I would insert, instead, in a new 2, I wouldn't remove 2 or 3, I would just bump them down, and I would state the chair and vice chair shall serve for a period of 1 year. Oh, wait, no, you have that. You have 1 year concurrent. Sorry, you have that for a period of 1 year. Subcommittee boards. You know what? That's okay. That's okay. We don't need mine. That's fine. I would just make that one change. So I'm going to make an amendment just to place the following language. I'll state it again. The election of the chairman and vice chair shall occur. Here's the amendment. Immediately upon formation of the committee, comma, subject to being placed. So that's my amendment.
Second.
Okay.
If I may,
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
We're re-solidifying a statement under D2, which is member terms, and it already creates the 1 year there as well. We're just essentially recommitting to that point, and I don't want there to be a conflict with 4, which is upon election, the members of the committee shall meet for the election of a chair and vice chair.
Oh, okay.
So if we leave this the way it is, these are still invocable.
I got it. You know what? Given that, that's fair. I'll remove it. That makes sense. That makes sense. So I'm gonna withdraw that amendment.
The second agreed on?
The second agreed withdrawal?
Yeah, his amendment's gone, so my second doesn't matter.
Chairman, do you have anything to add, or?
Well,
Commission, did you have that?
If you don't mind, so, I'm still learning, I read a lot of this, and I want to thank, our law director, because it was very valuable what you provided, it was helpful to point in a good direction when I was looking about school. So, a couple of things, I think a couple of things that I did, that I was ignorant of which I was ignorant when I was voted in the commission. And I still believe that, overall, the committee should have the most say on it, because I don't want to go in and be telling committees what to do. But as long as our rules are established. So I know that, I feel like that's an agreement with everybody. But, when I'm reading in here, if you go, there's a few spots, and I could go through and reread the parts that have already been referenced. I'm not going to do all that. But, it talks about how it's not properly noticed and all that. So there's a real reason to have this discussion legally. I don't feel like that what happened at the Education Committee, I do not believe was legally correct. Like, I don't think it was binding because of the fact of it wasn't properly noticed. And I think it's a shame that, we've already said this ad nauseum, but I don't believe that, I think that social media does matter, and it's a terrible thing in many ways, but I think that we should never, it's very difficult to assign blame when it's someone that's not even that person. I mean, for one thing, so there's a lot of things going on, but it comes down to the fact that when you read, I want to make sure that we say it clearly. I think it does in here, but on the second one, can I get help from all of you? But it's just the committee chairman.
Where are you at?
On the recommendations. Number 2. The committee chairman and vice.
No, I meant as far as Robert's rules, where are you reading from?
Oh, I'm jumping away from it for a second.
Oh, okay.
I had it marked. But,
Gotcha.
I just want to make sure, where it says right in here in the 50s, where it says in Robert's rules that it should be a year or, and it doesn't mean or like as in earlier. It means like if you don't get to have a quorum and you don't have an election, you're not without a chairman. I want to make sure you understand where I'm going with that? Like if it says the committee chairman and vice chair appointments shall be for 1 year, and it's either an and or I've got it right here. Let me see. Shoot. I had too many things.
Can I interrupt you, please, 1 second?
Yes.
Basically, how it works is, let's say there's a meeting, and the vice chair and the chairman don't show up. Many members then temporarily appoint a chairman to run the meeting at that meeting. That's how it works.
Because in Robert's rules here,
That's how it went from Robert's rules.
that's correct, because it was just saying that it's to make sure that there's not an accidental like a lapse. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's just a protection on that, and I can find it here in a second. I'll not waste your time with this. I'll find it and come back to it. But the other thing I was going to say is, if you read where it says, okay, so 5632, which is on page, really,
What's
side
the-
44.
What's the
Page-
section?
page
Not
five.
page number, the section.
The section 5632. This is one thing I think that we might have done incorrectly, and I was leaving, the thought process on this too. I was in the same thing, but according to this, it says the method. I'm gonna read it. The method of filling vacancies may also be provided unless the bylaws clearly provide otherwise. Notice the vacancy office being given to members of the body that will elect the person to fill it. If the bylaws are silent, as the method of filling a vacancy in the specific case of the presidency, the vice president or first vice president automatically becomes president for the remainder of the term. So, and the vacancy to be filled arises in the vice presidency or lowest ranking vice presidency. It means that there's a company. If another method of filling a vacancy in the presidency is desired, it must be prescribed and specified as applying to the office of president in particular. So by this, now, first of all, I believe they were out of order for voting to remove Bob in the situation that happened, because it wasn't noticed properly, okay? Then, at that point, if they have another meeting and they vote Bob out, if that's an ability, if that's something that's decided upon by the commission, then I believe that would make the vice chair, are you vice chair? I believe that would make vice chair president according to this.
And that's what we confirmed, I think, the law register.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
So I believe she, in that situation, would be president according to Robert's rules. And so I know that's what you said. I just want to say I found that I read it for a second. I'm confirming what is being said there. And I think that I should have seen that before. I just didn't read that section. I didn't have it with me. And I should have seen that and read it in the commission meeting. But I was on the winning side. So if I had to bring it back up, I will. But otherwise, I do believe that this shows that Shannon should be, if the president is voted out. Same way as she's my vice in highway. If I get voted out next Monday or whatever, then she's that's what it should be. So I mean, regardless.
I have a question for the law register. I'm a little fuzzy on, we know that agendaing the item to vote for a new chairman and vice chairman, according to Robert's rules, is the correct parliamentary procedure. As far as removal, in my understanding, it was a simultaneous remove/replace in one motion that was made in education, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct? Wrong. So, okay. So I guess it comes up as a debate of was the removal portion in order or not. I'm assuming it was. I don't know, but I don't know what the question was there. But I know that Commissioner Brown is not putting up any kind of protest or making a scene. He's just letting this play out and being a gentleman about it. And so I respect him for that. My question is, Commissioner Teachner brings up a point. Is Commissioner Brown still the chairman of education? I guess is the...
No, I think because the Robert's Rules creates a situation that is so adamant about properly filling the vacancy, like in 32.7, which is referenced in the memo, that the removal isn't necessarily of issue. It's the replacement that's the issue.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to confirm the record that you just had a question after Commissioner Teacher read that. So.
Can I just finish one thing before I turn? So I want to say I do not believe that Commissioner Brown did anything incorrect on the safety. I think that should be said. I think that any time that we get upset in this situation, it's always possible. And I know that it's even been brought up about Commissioner Becker about the panic buttons. I mean, I think that anytime we're trying to bring awareness, there's going to be a moment where there could be some statement that's made that could draw attention to something. There's a lot of issues like that. We could talk about maybe unsecure buildings or whatever that may not be that. And I think that's a really tough place. But I don't believe that the intent was ever to be unsafe with children for either of those commissioners. I mean, I know we talked about it even in the meeting of the night. I think that that's one of those tough deals where we're in a county commission spot where we represent a lot of folks, and we got to be very careful on it. But I don't think that's something that was like an intentional, I'm causing harm.
And I'll just make a comment. The news reported on that before there was ever even mentioned or brought on that agenda, so it's out of the news. So to blame Commissioner Brown is egregious about it.
It's been an issue. It's been brought up at several.
So I'm listening to this commentary here, and I think I'm going to add another. I'm just trying to really dial this in so it's clear here. And I think what I'd like to do is offer another amendment. to make it clear. So there's two things that happened, right? The first thing that happened was the removal of the chair, which I think we've addressed here. It's a little bit slightly higher bar than Robert's Rules, but, I mean, not much. I mean, it's pretty in line with Robert's Rules, very close to it. But it doesn't really deal with the second one, which is who takes over in the interim. I mean, we can default back to Robert's Rules, and then how do we, so I.
And our rules do say whatever not covered.
Right, so, I mean, I just want to be like, super clear with it. So, here's the amendment I would offer. Should the committee, it would be item number 4, under 2D for committee officers, it would be a new number 4. A new number 4. So, should the committee vote to remove a chair or vice chair, subject to section 2D, 4.3, the previous paragraph, the committee shall vote for a new chair or vice chair, subject to the committee adding the item on an agenda with adequate public notice.
So that's item number 1. We already covered that.
Can I make a comment
Shall,
to this?
no. We're talking sequentially here.
I don't want you all to get too caught up in the meat of this. This is meant to work with other provisions in here so that we're not reinventing the wheel. If you look at number 4.2, the vice chair shall perform the duties of the committee chair in their absence.
I get it. I mean, I get it, but we're overriding parts of Robert's Rule with number 3. Right? I mean, Robert's Rule number 3, we're somewhat overriding 6216.
We even have an amendment on the floor.
Well, yeah.
We're talking about amendments, and we don't have anything.
So, yeah, let me finish this. You're right, Mr. Ray. Let me finish this amendment real quick, and we can. I'm still in the queue from the previous. So let me make my comment here. I mean, we are already strengthening and reinforcing items within Robert's Rules, right? I mean, we don't have to do 2D43, because that's already covered. I mean, it's already covered. What we're doing is we're covering it again, making it super crystal clear, and then raising the bar a little bit, which I'm good with, right? So all I'm suggesting is that we do the exact same thing for the replacement. So if you think about it sequentially, the first thing that's going to happen, if you want to do this, the first thing that happens is you come in, you place adequate notice for the removal of the chair or vice chair. Okay, that failed. That maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. If it passes, then there's a next thing in sequence that has to happen, and then you have to deal with who replaces that individual.
Might I suggest just taking 1 and moving it and making it 3? I mean, basically, 2 becomes 3.
Yeah, you could.
1, 3 becomes 2.
You could do that.
And I think that solves the problem.
The election of, but I want it to be, yes, you could do that. So that's a good suggestion. All right. So let me do this amendment real quick to make it. So all in one amendment. Item 2 becomes item 1. Item 3 becomes item 2. Item 1. Are we able to make an amendment? No, we haven't voted.
Yeah, we haven't gotten this up yet.
And I know, no, I'm amending, we haven't voted this up or down yet, I'm amending it.
He's still in discussion about what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could clarify.
Yeah, and
What you're trying to do with number 4 already exists in number 1.
Yeah, it's just the sequence of it. Because the thing that happens first is the removal.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to get it very linear, very sequential. So, the item 2 should be item 1. Item 3 should be item 2. First thing that happens, hey, here's the boundaries. Item 2, item 3, which is now item 2, says, okay, we're going to remove this person. That happens or it doesn't happen. Then the next thing that's going to happen is item 1 becomes item 3. I would like to make one change in this.
Can I just,
I'm just trying to make this so crystal clear, so this doesn't get us caught like this again. So the new item one, or excuse me, the new item 3, which is item 1, would be amended as follows. In the beginning, upon the removal of either a chair or vice chair, comma, and then the rest of item 1 follows.
Well, I do, but you gotta remember, item 3 is irregardless of what we're doing. It's required by Robert's rules, so it doesn't matter if it's a removal or not, you gotta do that on the first, when that committee.
You can't get rid of one, because you have to establish
One is just,
how we set up the
it's
committee.
just a matter of fact.
Every
You can't
September.
change it.
But you can't, you're right, but when this happens, you do it again, right? Like,
Correct.
Well, you could do the,
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, I think it's redundant.
You all have to
Yeah.
remember that 2D4, these get inserted, and the rest of that section's getting bumped down. And maybe if to appease your flow, make 3 the very last item on, D4. Because you're focusing on this as one standalone section. This is being incorporated into another section.
Yeah,
incorporated.
The current number 1 is annually, no later than a September meeting, the commission shall elect members to serve on standing committees. 2, committee shall nominate members to the committee. 3, in commission election years, committee chair may arrange a slate of commission to consider. I'm talking about the wrong one. Committee officers.
It's page
Right now, there's 6 points to
5.
this section. I'm suggesting adding 3 more. It'd be 9.
I understand.
D1 up the page.
Yeah, no, I understand this.
So that's where we're moving.
No, I understand that.
You just want to be redundant with really a number 4 saying after the person's removed, you still want to pre-qualify, you want to add it to.
Because that was the thing that you got all caught up in, right? Like, who's in charge? It's very clear that immediately for that temporary period, the interim is the vice chair. That's clear. The question was, does that have to be publicly noticed? Could they have voted for it right then? That was what caused all of this.
And I still think 1, 2, and 3 answer that question without any more additions personally, because like, when number 1 is, when you're talking about committee officers, upon election.
You know what, you're right, but we need to refer back to it. If we just have something in there in item 3 that refers back to section, I just don't want it to be.
Yeah, you're just,
D1, 3, or D2?
For
this one.
on my sheet of paper.
Yeah, on your sheet of paper.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
The
want
one I
something
get
that
right
refers back to number 1. So after we get to 3, just add something that refers back to number 1. So you could even, okay, we'll do it this way. So on item 3, on your paper, on your amendment, Mr. Mansfield, add the following statement. Should the committee vote to remove a chair or vice chair, the committee shall elect a new chair or vice chair subject to 2D41 of these rules. So it just refers right back to 1. Creates like a nice little loop.
Subject to D41.
Yes, correct. It's like it's like in programming, like a little loop.
Yes, gotcha. I
That's-
want to make sure I'm writing it correctly.
So that's my amendment. I think that makes it simple. You're just referring back to here.
So I'm going to restate your amendment, before I don't have a second yet. So you're saying, at the end of number 3, you're going to add, unless otherwise provided by state law, period. Should the committee vote to remove chair or vice chair, the committee shall elect a new chair or vice chair according to 2D41.
Correct. 2D41.
Organization, commission, committees, committee officers, and then the 1.
The 1.
What I have written.
Correct. That is correct. That's my amendment. Nobody?
Can I get the,
Well, we need is there a second for it? If it dies, it dies. Well, we need it.
I'll give a second.
All right, we have a second.
Second for, all right, we do have a second, so, I would like, while record, is there,
I think it's redundant when we start, the more involved you start getting on this, the more you start painting yourself in a corner. I don't know what this could lead to in the future, but I just hate, I hate hamstringing myself.
Well, to me, it's, I guess, I don't see how you could interpret any other way of, that, the chairman, vice chair has to be, noticed. So I guess the only, let's give you an example. The committee could basically caption the agenda to say, debate, discussion, removal of chair or vice chair, and as well as election of new chair or vice chair. If that's captions, they're satisfying the requirement all in meeting. They're not having to do it at the meeting. I guess would be my interpretation of it. But,
Yeah, you could do that.
So, but, Commissioner Rogers, you mind if I let you go?
I'm gonna,
I've got a question.
I just want that in.
I don't know where this rabbit trail is gonna take me, but here we go. Cannot an agenda, can we not overrule the posting and public notice and all by 2/3 by committee or even by the floor of the commission?
As far as like adding an item to the
Correct.
agenda? You can add an item to the agenda, yes, with a majority vote.
Of that committee or of the
The
commission
committee,
floor?
it might be, I don't know if it's 2/3, and the state mandates, the state law, as far as adding an item to an agenda of a full a county legislative body is a simple majority, because the county commission rules for the past a decade or more have said 2/3. And I try to add things to the agenda all the time. I did try to actually add a rule to keep anybody from adding an item to an agenda from the floor. It would require to go to a second reading, and I actually wrote that in the original rules to even stop. If you want to add something to the agenda item, you can't do it, because you'd have to come back the next month, almost like 2 readings. And the former county attorney, Ben Allen, contacted CTAS Legal, and they basically said no, because the county legislative body has to be able to do any type of business with a simple majority vote of the commission. So therefore, not only was I shot down on trying to create a 2-reading requirement, basically, for adding something to an agenda, but it also, the state law required, you couldn't do a 2/3 either for the full commission. That doesn't relate to the actual committee process. Committee processes are different, so.
But again, that was my question though. If we go back to the committee, well, I think the committee had a unanimous vote to add that to the agenda in the education committee last month. Or this month.
The
Sorry.
only hangup was the voting on the chair at the same time.
It was a violation of Robert's rules.
Well, okay.
But you can.
We've got a violation of Robert. So, I guess my question is, since I sit on that committee, who is the chair today of Education Committee? Okay, all right. So what is our intent today to fix and or repair or try to keep from derailing off of all this stuff we've been sitting here for 40 minutes for?
I'm glad you brought that up. It's very key to understand. This is from this point moving forward. Education, it's my understanding, unless I'm told differently, that the noticed item on their next meeting, and once that has happened, they will be in compliance, and there will be either a new chairman or Mr. Brown as chairman for the following, 2 months?
Okay.
Commissioner Teacher?
Yes, I was gonna say this, and because I'm speaking on the amendment, but this pertains, because of that, they still will be in compliance with these rules, correct? Even if they were instilled before, if they have it agendaed and do it that correct way. Correct.
This one has got some cause requirements, so, and there's a 2-vote step to get to eventually a new chairman.
Which is kind of what they're taking, because we forced them to go back and take the 2 votes.
As far as getting to chairman, yes.
I have one question about it. So this is an odd deal, but if you go to 46, 49 of Robert's Rules, and I think this actually gives more cause to what we're doing right now, and I think this might answer your question, and we may not even need to have that amendment. That's what I'm saying. So 4649. And the big one is 423, but it's, I think, the smallest too. Anyway, if you read, it talks about, 4648 talks about contesting the announced result of an election, okay? Exactly what we're talking about. And then we go down and it says, it talks about, depending on the circumstances, the voting body may be able to order a recount if an election was conducted by ballot, roll call vote, or counted vote. And it says, it gives some reasons behind all that. But then you get down a little further, it says, otherwise, election may be contested only by raising a point of order because of 5 different things. And if you look on D, so this is 4649D. If an election to fill a vacancy is held without required previous notice, action has been taken in violation of a rule protecting the rights of absentees. Okay, so that part right there, this is where it gets tricky, because there wasn't a vacancy before this meeting. So therefore, I don't know if it's possible to, no matter even if you do a 2/3 vote or whatever and add something to the agenda, it doesn't seem like there's a legal vacancy. So therefore, at that point, it has to, you had to vote them out with a proper notice, and then you had to vote them in with a proper notice. It's like 2 different meetings, really, what it seems like it needs to take place. And so does that need to say that in these rules a little more? Does it say it clear enough that it should be 2 meetings is what I'm trying to get to? Or is that something they can just throw on there and do all of it at once, just like, in one clause?
Do you mind if I just?
Chairman,
So I can stop. I think everybody understands what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, and then we'll move on. I just want that to be in the discussion. Go ahead.
There's a popular statement that says, keep it simple, stupid. When I asked that this be, and I really hate that I was not able to be here, but when I asked that this be considered, it was because of vagueness of the rules. It wasn't that it didn't speak in any number of ways. You could pick it up. You didn't say this might apply, this could apply, this did apply. It was just vague. And I think that's what the lawyer is trying to say, is that we don't want to do too much and make it even more confusing than what it is. Quite simply, we need to just address the issue that came up and try to repair it and fix it. And I would just leave it to you people. You're very intelligent people to come up with something. But let's not dig the hole too deep that we can't get out. I did not know, I want to reiterate, when the lawyer sent out the letter at the first of the week, and I think it was very appropriate, but I did not know that was coming. I did not know that information was there. I'm glad I didn't. I don't think I should necessarily have known. I just didn't know. And I think some good things were pointed out there. I was hesitant at that time to make a decision and to say chairmanships are for a year. If I'd done that, here we go again down another really treacherous path. We just needed to answer some questions about how can we keep this from happening again without making it too complicated. Personally speaking, I think that a committee chairman should be able to be replaced. Whether I agree with any one decision or not, this decision or any, it should be a decision of a committee. However, I think the bar should be somewhat high, just like the others that we talked about committee chairman says something, does something, or speaks something that is that is contrary to the thoughts of the committee, we could be changing committees as much as we change clothes. And we don't need to be doing that. We need to have stability in the commission. But there should be an avenue for such a thing. On thoughts of social media, let me just say there's no one clean here at this point. It doesn't bother me because I don't really hang on social media. It disturbs me that people have that much time to go through social media and see what's going on there. Thank goodness I don't. There must be some really foul and nasty and dirty things going on social media, and I don't want to be a part of it. But I do think that we should tone, personally, that it would upset somebody and it should be toned down, and it's unnecessary. Why can't we at a committee just speak our thoughts, say what we think? I disagree with Shannon Bergdorf, this is why, and then we walk away able to work together on the next issue. We need to tone down things in regard to that. Now, in regard to everything else, let me say we need to have some way of saying that it is appropriate for a committee to change committee chair and what happens when that change occurs. Who takes over, who does what, and so forth. And we're somewhat on that road, even though we're wobbling a little bit on it. And one other thing that I would like to suggest is that there be some kind of appeal process. The chairman of the commission is just another commissioner who's refereeing the fight on the third Monday night of each month. The chairman, I've seen weak chairmen, and I've seen strong chairmen, and I've seen chairmen that I think that are appropriate in their management. I think the chairman should not make unilateral decisions. I agree with Mr. Becker on that entirely. The body of this county that should make those kinds of decisions is the county commission. So if there is an appeal process, I think it should be an appeal. If the chairman's replaced or if anyone wants to make an appeal, we should somehow word it that it will be a vote of the full county, an appeal process to the full county commission. And that bar could be high too, if you do a 2/3 vote as county commission. But there should be some kind of appeal process, I think. That's all I have to say about that.
I'm a little confused with this whole thing, because if I can go back to that afternoon. Chairman Brown was removed without notice. That's a fact. The new chair was voted in without notice. What was the cause of removing him in the first place? It might have been that one of the other committee members was offended, or it was also stated that it was putting people in danger, children in danger. But if it was about child safety, how do you talk about it with sunshine laws? You have to bring it up at this table. So I think there's a lot of things that are coming into play here that, if we go back in time, was it really a legitimate removal? Because it sounds like at this table it's a done deal. I'm not convinced of that, or I wouldn't be convinced. I mean, I think at some point during that meeting, somebody said, wait, we're out of order here. Removal of a chairman should be noticed. And instatement of a new chair should be noticed. What is the cause? And if the cause was endangering children, how do we talk about it with sunshine laws we can't. We can't keep it secret. We can't not talk about buttons or other things. So, I don't mean to complicate this thing any worse, but it seems like a lot of things were not followed to begin with.
May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Should we, for our education committee agenda, have another vote to remove the chairman and then vote to replace the chairman on that agenda to satisfy the notice requirement that you're concerned about?
That notice
Although I know
requirement that he's referring to is what we're putting in now.
Correct.
That cannot go backwards.
So no.
So
Okay.
the way they did it, as far as the vote to remove, I can't, I mean, he can get enough leverage to get some validity out of that at Robert's Rules. The hang-up on Robert's Rules is the notice requirement for the appointment of the vacancy.
So here we are going forward.
Yeah.
And
We're
on the
it's two different
agenda-
things happening. We still gotta get education right, and then as a result of this is how it's gonna be from now on.
Right.
But is Commissioner Bergdorf not correct in what she's saying, that since it was inappropriately done in the beginning, why can't you go
I
back?
can't say it was inappropriately done. If a committee can act as its own entity, then
This is
whatever reason they had.
Hold on, let's keep it in order here.
So notification isn't a requirement?
For the election of a chairman, it is. In my understanding, it is silent on the removal. You can't, but the problem is,
Okay.
if this passes here, this doesn't get ratified by the full commission, and it has to have a 2/3 majority vote on July 29th. What we do here does not affect the outcome of Monday, but it sets a precedent of what should, happen. We didn't have time to really debate this thing about this last week, which is why Chairman Ida asked me to call a special call meeting to do this at a special time outside of the legislative process, knowing it was going to be an hour. But what is required is a notice, which is going to happen. Everything coming into order, and what happens Monday and what happens, and that's where the language of this being caused. I think it needs to be intentionally open, because we can't know what's going to happen or dictate it. And there might be calls, but it's right now we're leaving up to the committee to determine calls. I will be voting no on the amendment. I got on the redundant, just to let you know. But after I do that, I'm going to make an amendment for discussion of what Chairman Hines said. I think some type of appeal process would be a good idea to add in the language of this, whether it goes to the full commission, or a 2/3 majority vote to override, I think would be appropriate. So that's, you can add that in as I think that could be a step. But
If we do go with an appeal process,
well, it might not pass. I mean, it might pass the state, but
but if it were to, and I'm speaking as the person who's in the middle of all of this. So if it were to go to the appeal process, does that negate electing a new chairman? Because if you have an appeal option, then you can't elect a new chairman for a time. It makes sense that we follow Robert's Rules and you just have the vice chairman fill that seat until the appeal process is all taken care of. Because you wouldn't want, I've been acting chairman, Jerry thinks he's the chairman because of the vote on an education. If we were to elect Jerry as chairman, but we then pass that Bob can appeal, then we've had two different chairmen sitting in the chairman's seat of education.
This would not take effect until after that happens, and so you can't, it would not be retroactive, so it would not affect, have any bearing. This is future forward moving.
For any other removal of chairman going forward.
Correct.
So it will not affect what is currently, and that's what I wanted to make clear.
But
Yes.
That's true, but I do have the appeals process, well, again,
I haven't made a motion yet.
I understand that. Just from a legal standpoint, I want to point out that if you do an appeals process that becomes a commission vote, you're right back in the same legal problem you had before, which is the committee can operate within themselves. So short of there being some bona fide ethics issue or misconduct that was alleged, which they do have a mechanism to initiate that process if false allegations have been made, or vice versa, to use the ethics committee to route that out. But you could have this wrapped up a whole committee term of 1 year, just trying to figure out who the chairman is. So they all eat from the same trough in the committee. They know what's going on in that committee. I really think it's going to be dangerous trying to kick any part of this over to the commission to where that vote could override it.
So, I know we're still on that amendment. I mean, at the end of the day, you could argue that it's redundant. It's just that when something like this happens, you want to make it like as crystal clear as possible. And in that vein,
Coffee is hot, they all stood on yourself.
But then you have to say, well, what defined as hot? You know, is it 120 degrees, right? I mean,
Which they did.
That's the problem. Like, that's the problem that we have here. But I mean, it's fine. I'm not going to go after that either way. The more I read this number 3, though, now I've got another problem with it. So I'm going to bring up another one. I just think we need to vote this one up or down. It's fine because I'm going to have another issue with number 3. The more I read into it, it's okay. This is on the right path, but I still think there's a hole here. But I don't know. I think we just need to vote mine up or down.
Speak on the amendment.
Okay, I think, will you stop and tell me the point of order if I'm wrong?
Well, I think I've had pretty wide line.
All I want to say is, and our attorney hit on it, is, I mean, who cares ultimately who winds up being the commission, the chairman? I mean, that's like, there's many ways about that.
We clearly care a lot.
No, I'm saying.
That's the driving force of the
No, but I'm saying.
Work.
No, calm down, everybody. Point of order on everybody, including myself. But the thing is when we get to the point, I think that if there's an accusation made, like, okay, if I were voted out from highway, whatever, that's fine, that's at the will of people, but if there was an accusation made against me that was like something unethical, I would like that to be appealed. I don't care if I would ever get back to chairman. I would just like there to be a chance for an appeal for the ethical violation.
I think we're going to bring that one up.
So, please.
I think we're going to bring that one up.
I just think that was.
I think we need to, let's vote mine up or down.
Yes.
Let's vote mine up or down.
So, hold on, I'll bring it back in order here. We have a motion by Commissioner Show, we have a second by Commissioner Klein, and we're going to restate the motion. Basically, at the end of the number 3 that I typed out for you guys, otherwise provided by state law, period. Should the committee vote to remove the chair or vice chair, the committee shall elect the new chair or vice chair according to 2D4.1. That is the amendment. It is redundant, but it's not inaccurate.
It's just putting it back.
I think it addresses the removal. I think it's fine.
So,
Well, the only question that leaves for me, I think, is the fact that, to me, now it creates another question, in the fact that, okay, does that mean you have to go out and redo agenda, and it's a 2-month process?
Yes.
That's how I'll interpret that, personally, versus if the agenda originally stated, it's gonna be discussion for removal, chair or vice chair with cause, and the potential nomination and election of a new chair or vice chair. That could be an agenda item.
yeah, but I don't read it that it violates that. I mean, it's all in there at once. It still satisfies one. It still satisfies one. It's all in there at once.
All right, just making sure it wasn't,
Now,
could be interpreted as, it just seems,
no, I don't, because it's still, I mean, you can put it all in there at once, and it still satisfies one, and it satisfies, because it satisfies one, and you're only pointing back to one, I think you're fine.
probably any other discussion on the amendment.
I'm just one thing, I was gonna vote for it, because I thought it would do a double, it would change it, but I mean, if it's redundant, I'm probably gonna vote against it, that may change, but I feel like they both are, I think it's one of them.
I'm just trying to be so crystal clear about it, Mr. Roger.
Call question.
Yeah, there we go.
Is there a second call?
Second.
All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, I always vote against it.
You voted against your own call?
No, I was gonna ask for a roll call vote.
All right, we'll roll call vote.
Please.
Chairman Hunt.
Aye.
For the call question, you're asking?
No, for the, I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
We're on the amendment.
Aye.
Chairman Hunt, aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Tripp, aye.
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 Mr. Klein.
I'm sorry. Aye.
Mr. Burdor.
Aye.
I'll say aye. So, all right, motion carried unanimously to add that at the end of that period. Now we're back to I'll make a motion to approve this. Well, we're on discussion. I'm gonna keep the discussion. I want to make a motion yet. So it brings up a good point of, is there Chairman Hyde, just referring what you mentioned to, so maybe it's not the commission, but versus is there an appeal to, like the ethics committee, should an accusation be made?
Matt,
Well, you personally accused, so just.
I would like to speak to it because I've had lots of time to think about it. I don't know that we need a special appeals process if we have an ethics committee review. Because the ethics committee is for commissioners. And I felt like in that situation in education, and I understand Don's, the level of insult that Don felt from that post.
I don't disagree.
And I would, to go further, so for the record, my pastor talked to me after church that Sunday before this situation on Monday and said, someone had come to me and said that you voted to have pornography put in school libraries. It is personally offensive to have someone say that to you because you voted to fund books in a school library in a situation where state law says you cannot, where state law, I'm speaking to myself and to what happened on Education Committee, where state law says you do not have line item veto, fund it all or fund none. So, and you have to explain your vote, and I'm happy to, and I was happy to explain my vote, but it's hard to have that aspersion cast upon you by and certainly by anonymous people. And then then in Don's situation, when he knew who it was, and however that was rectified, that was his, that was up to him. But I felt like the more appropriate method would have been for him to have gone and filed an ethics complaint. So in that vein, and I did not feel like that was something that I would have done, but if Don was clearly, and is still clearly very upset about this, then the ethics, I feel like we've got it covered with the ethics portion. I don't know that we need an appeals process for removal. If this says we can remove, then if that person is still concerned, then that person can then go and file a charge on the ethics committee with ethics to clear their name, per se.
Ethics and Conduct Committee is not for social media comments outside the commission. It's anything subversive of good order during the commission meeting is all it addresses. So we're not,
well,
it
maybe
would not
that
be.
at a different juncture could be addressed, but I don't think for right now.
And my point is, I guess, from what Chairman Hyde's next, but it was just, the fact of there was an accusation that you're putting safety of children at risk. So if you're talking about safety, public safety issue, which is an egregious accusation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know even if our ethics policy, ethics and conduct policy covers that, to be honest. I mean, to kind of prove your point.
But that did happen in a meeting here. That accusation also from Don was when you spoke to that and published it on, that was in not a social media situation as much as it was something placed on the agenda. It was a commission, it was part of his commission work that also that Don fussed about the plastic wall that school,
Mentioning a
et
public
cetera.
meeting, which was in the news before that happened, which is, I mean,
Besides that, feelings aside, Don had a legitimate, in his mind, complaint that I felt like could have been dealt with the ethics portion. Whether it was the social media post, because it's a commissioner against the commissioner, that in his mind, he's saying it felt like we had a process in place where he could have filed an ethics complaint and dealt with it there, not in the committee by removing the chairman. That's all I'm saying.
our ethics and conduct policy does not talk about anything outside of the commission meeting. Personal family members making a comment, you can't do, I mean, that can't ever happen. That's why I'm voting a stability resolution. This only pertains to during an actual meeting, not your conduct.
She's talking about that, though.
Talking about in the education committee meeting when Bob brought up, and you were saying that ethics only covers the actual once-a-month commission meeting. Or, because
Yeah, I'll leave that up to you.
I'm not talking about the Facebook post, I'm talking about the school safety issues. That occurred in an education committee meeting while we were here doing our job as a body,
Sure, just
as an
like
education
Commissioner
committee.
Becker brought up, I guess.
I'm specifically speaking to Dawn's complaint, not Jerry Becker. And that the other part of Dawn's complaint was that in the education committee meeting, he felt like Bob did something in his course of work to endanger children. That, I felt like, was legitimate to go to ethics about.
Gotcha. Yeah. Chairman,
I think we're talking about two different things here. I think Shannon's right. I think he had the right to, because of what was said, to make an ethics complaint. But we're talking about, as Jeremy said, the issue of replacement of officers.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, it's specific to that. And I think there ought to be an appeal process for that so that this does not become a disruption on the commission of often changing committee chairmanships or vice chairman, whatever. So two entirely different issues here. As far as the ethics committee is concerned, if I was involved and someone took me to the ethics committee, I could very well say, well, this group is in power and this ethics committee is somewhat skewed. I can say that because I've seen it from commission to commission. But there is no argument with the final authority, the full commission, to affirm or reject. And I don't think that we should have necessarily a full debate at the commission on many appellate court situations. It's on the record and not anything else. So that could be forwarded to the commission if you so wanted, and it not be debatable, but it be on the record as handled by the committee and everything that went on, and then have the commission either affirm or reject the decision on the record.
I was just gonna say, I love that idea, and I think, is that an amendment?
No, you can make that as an amendment.
All I was gonna ask is, I think that Commissioner Bergdorf brings up a great point, because I do believe that I think if we look at it from Commissioner A or Commissioner B, either the accusing or the other side of it, either way, they're both, it's like this whole thing, I mean, just to be completely non-biased. It comes to the point of, I mean, even if it were, a social media post, which that's not what she's saying. She's saying that it's one of the two things. But then on the other hand, when there's the accusation of the public safety, and when then there's the accusation of a commissioner, then there's, I think that, I would like to see it
That's what I think.
where that, if it's brought forth as an appeal, I think that it shouldn't be just like everybody can appeal everything all the time. I think if there's an ethics complaint, if there's something like an ethical complaint, like a major deal, says this person did this, or this, put something on the agenda, or whatever, it shouldn't be up to, it should automatically flag and go before the ethics committee and let them make a decision, and that be part of the appellate process. And it comes, because like, they're forever, though, like, it's like an accusation that's pretty serious, though, in that situation. Or, okay, I'll stop. Because I don't have to be right on it. I just want to bring attention to it, see what she thinks.
I am going to make an amendment to say,
Please.
I would like to make an amendment that, this was, the decision in this particular situation only, removal of officers, that it be, handled in such a way that there can be an appeal to the county commission on, record only, to accept, confirm, or reject the decision.
With no debate.
With no debate on the record. We'll have all the information, that'll be on the record.
Second.
So I just want, can I just get clarification on what that, so it's something to the effect of a chair or vice chair who has been voted to vacate may appeal to the full commission, for a vote to confirm or deny, to confirm with no debate. Is that?
Yes.
Law director.
You're right back into the box that I talked about earlier. Either the committees have the authority to appoint or not. You can't have the commission coming in second guessing what the committees are doing as far as chairman and vice chair.
It'll never stay at the committee level, though. It will never, ever stay at the committee level. There's gonna have to be some kind of appeal process, or there will never be satisfied. We'll be where we are now in a quagmire unless someone with authority finally says what the committee has done is appropriate. We believe it's appropriate.
That's right.
Well, I think we're gonna have to come down and say we just gotta trust the committee process. That's really where we're at. Because if you get into the appeal process, you get to running it back and forth. You get into the ethics process, you're gonna run it back and forth. The ethics committee is still a committee. And, if you get into the weeds of it going to the commission with no debate, one could argue what's the due process? I've got something charged against me in my position. You mean I can't argue it in front of my peers? I don't have a right to confront in front of my peers? If we're talking about the holistic Constitution here, let's look at the holistic Constitution of the right of due process and confronting and bringing all that stuff about. That's what it's all about. If we're really going to make decisions here based on Robert's rules and our rules, we've got to trust the committee process. Whether we like it, whether it's bitter, whether it's sour, whether it's sweet. Because I've been told that no telling how many times, and I'm not making it personal, but when I go to add stuff on the floor, can't do that, you got to trust that committee process. Okay, you're right. And I'll swallow it, and it'll come back around 30, 40 days later, and here we are on the committee process. We've got to trust the committee process.
But you can, you can fix that with it, because I originally was gonna be against this, because I'm thinking about it. You could solve that problem, let's say, appeal must be, subject to notice at the full committee, or at the full commission. Right, you put a time period on it, and I'm just trying to think about how it's gonna work. So, may appeal, so the process would be, the chair in question would appeal to the chair of the commission, and then the chair of the commission would, place that appeal onto the agenda.
I think that's how this would work. Word that, that'd be legitimate, but I guess the biggest problem is just the unorthodox chaos, of this causing an unprecedented manner, is chaotic. I question whether it's deliberated outside of the meeting to make the decision. I think citizens have asked me that. Did deliberations happen in violation of sunshine law? Making the decision. I think citizens have asked that question. So, there was a violation, obviously, and of course, I don't necessarily fault because nobody's ever encountered this. So, as far as the election of the chairman, that's technically in violation. A lot of people probably haven't ever read that or thought about it. So, but I understand. I'm conflicted on the circular motion of this, so moderator would you?
Yeah, I think to help clear this up is this person, hypothetical individual, is not being removed from the committee. They're still a voting member of the committee with as much sway as any other voting member of the committee. This is about their designation within the committee. So if they're being removed from a committee, you got a whole different standard here. If you have a committee that's being tasked with doing committee functions, and that committee says, for whatever, I don't have a great reason, it's just you're dropping the ball. We don't have agendas, whatever the case may be. You're just not meeting the requirements. We want a different chairman. I think the committee can do that. So if we start creating these appeals processes, we're saying there's a different standard between a committee member and the chairman.
That's right.
And I don't think we want to be creating any area like that. They're still on the committee. It's a separate issue if they're trying to remove them from the committee. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm respectful. I'm Commissioner on that.
And what Commissioner Rogers said, and followed by Eric, is an interesting thing. I don't mean to stick another stick in the spokes of the bicycle wheel, but if this is what we're talking, it's not removal from the committee, it's just removal from the position. Do we even need to talk about cause? Because the way this is written, and I appreciate you writing it, Jeremy, but the chairman or remove the chairman or vice chair for cause, with such cause to be determined by no less than a 2/3 majority vote. It's almost like,
Well, there's no comma there. Vote of what? Of the committee.
right, and so if the committee wants to get rid of the chairman as the chairman, and they're going to determine what the cause is that's a circular motion to.
Well, but it creates a standard that they've got to meet. Hey, look, guys, I don't think they're filling the bill. Here's what my cause is. You get 2/3 vote, then.
Okay, so we won't establish cause, they will establish cause.
Yes, and before we move off, I don't know what's about to be voted on, but Mr. Hyde brought up a great point on number 2. The committee chairman and vice chairman appointment shall be for 1-year terms. I think we need to get something in there that this could be conceived as, you get 1 year and that's it, it's over. And I don't want that to happen.
I'll fix that one after we get this. All right, so Chairman Hines, please speak to your amendment.
The legislative committee and its wisdom can do whatever you want, but this is my prediction, and would you please remember it? You're gonna have the same situation all over again, unless you have somebody finally saying, no, yes. You're gonna have the same thing the next time a committee chairman is thrown out as chairman. It could be David, Teachner, it could be anyone. When they're thrown out, and it goes back to the committee to make the final decision, and it looks like there's something really off about the way this was handled. They just didn't like David. Unless we have some final decision, you're going to have this. We haven't done anything here. It's going to be the same thing all over again. And it could be that a chairman says, okay, vote, that's fine. And they never appeal it. I don't see very many appeals happening. But if there is dissension, there's got to be someone to say, finally, yes or no.
That's why he's the sage of Sumner County.
So, go ahead.
I'm gonna go ahead and keep my second, we're gonna vote on that, because I think you got.
Questions, call the question, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are gonna vote on, just give me a second.
I'm gonna change my mind.
I want to call the question, no. All right. I'm going to change mine to no as well. Call the question, it still passes 5-2 to the question. So, the amendment made by Chairman Hyde and seconded by Commissioner T-Shirt, where the chair or vice chair that has been removed can appeal to the full commission to confirm or deny. If you want to have in there without debate, or just confirm or deny the
I
action
think
taken.
without debate, we don't, it's
To confirm or deny without debate the action taken.
Debate happens in the committee.
So, a chair or vice chair who has been removed can appeal to the full commission to confirm or deny without debate the action taken by the committee, and that is the motion. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Commissioner Rogers is, one no vote, we have 6 yeses.
Was that gonna be a number 4 or part of
My
3?
understanding was that, so is there gonna be part of 3, that is still part of 3, or is that a new number 4? Like a fourth addition to that?
Is it number 4 here, Mr. Hunter, is that part 3?
Your amendment.
I think it'll be 4.
All right. That would be a new number 4. All right. Well, we have settled this debate. Now, for the amendment, we're back to the main discussion. Is there a motion to approve?
I've got one, I want to fix this, and I've got two things I want to fix.
All right.
They're really nitpicky, but,
Mr. Sherman?
okay, so the first one I agree with, Roderick here on item 2, shall be for 1 year. I would like to insert the word terms.
Got a second? I'll second it.
Oh, wait, I've got another, you may not want a second. Well, let's just do that one, I think that was,
A
I got another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one out of the way.
For 1 year term.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
So the next one is, I realize now the thing that's bothered me about number 3, and that is, that it says, because it says the committee may, that's one option the committee has. The committee could, I got this thought when, Commissioner Rogers was over there saying, the committee could just override, we can just override this by saying, hey, we're gonna take a 2/3 vote. And we're gonna add something to the agenda and just basically override this, and it can, because it says the committee may. So what I'd like to do is strike the committee may and add the following terms. The chair and vice chair shall serve unless the committee, after. So it makes it a must.
Can you say that again? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
say that again?
Are you on 3?
Item 3,
Okay.
and strike the committee may,
Okay.
and say the chair and vice chair shall serve unless the committee, after.
Second.
Yeah, so it makes it where this is the only way they can do it.
So you're saying it's within the first 90 days? That's what that says to me.
Well,
Or it has to wait.
still, all of this is in effect, it's just I'm turning it into a must do it this
Yeah,
way.
the chair, so you're motioning to strike out committee may.
Yep. And say the chair and vice chair shall serve unless the committee.
After no less than
After no
90
less than 90
days from the
days.
date of
Okay.
publication, so it can pass the comment.
All right, so that is your amendment.
Please give them
Amendment 3.
Yep, that's it.
They got
So I'm
90
gonna
days
read,
regardless.
I'm gonna read 3 in its entirety.
Yep.
You can't touch them for the first 90 days.
There's one little hiccup here.
Yeah.
It says the chair and vice chair, then you come on down to, the 4th line, remove the chair or vice chair. Why are they gonna remove themselves? There's your
It
conflict.
says, no, it says the committee. It
Well,
says the
you
chair
changed
and vice
committee
chair.
to- right.
No, wait, hold on.
Shall serve
That says,
unless the committee.
unless the committee, the chair and vice chair are not the subject. The committee is still the subject. It's an introductory clause. So the chair and vice chair shall serve unless the committee, and then the committee.
After.
Yes.
Without
The committee is still the one doing that action.
Take the may out.
Remove
So let
the
me
chairman.
read this. we're striking, your amendment is to strike the committee may out.
Yes.
And so read, the chair and vice chair shall serve unless the committee, comma, after no less than 90 days from the date of the beginning of service, in said capacity, comma, with no less than 2/3 majority vote of the committee, comma, remove the chairman or vice chair for cause, comma, with such a cause to be determined by no less than a 2/3 majority vote of the committee, comma, unless otherwise provided by state law. Period. Should the committee vote to remove the chair or vice chair, the committee shall elect a new chair or vice chair according to 2D4.
D41.
One.
Correct.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
That is the entirety of that.
Mouthful. It is.
Long
But-
sentence.
So, but,
Charles
all right, there
Dixon.
needed, did we have a second on your amendment?
You did.
Dude, is it a complete sentence?
No.
Feels like it's
Doesn't
not.
matter.
I'm sorry, it feels like
It
it's
is.
not.
It is.
Yes, it is.
So
It is.
All
Feels like you held that word.
Is there a second on Commissioner Schoaf's, we have a second by Commissioner Teacher. Is there any further discussion on Commissioner Schoaf's amendment to item number 3?
So just for clarification, when the new committee is put together, the chair and vice chair have an unequivocal 90 days to prove themselves before any.
Yes.
Mhm.
Great, okay, I got it.
That's right.
Any further discussion?
I got a question about, when we're talking about, it may have to go after this vote, I don't want to get wrong, but I want to ask the question. Do we have it in our bylaws whether or not they can do, consecutive terms? Do we have that in there or not?
That's what Matt's last thing did.
That's
Not what we're
different. That's not, I don't think,
No.
that's
No.
totally.
Yeah, just making sure, I just want to make sure we didn't bring it up.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that amendment carries. Now we're back to making a motion for the entirety of this.
Motion to move.
Motion by Commissioner Schoaf, second by Commissioner Rogers. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Commissioner Rogers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?